So despite this chapter basically just being one big introduction for two characters that are clearly going to be playing a major part in the Kamunabi raid, I can't say I'm all too mad. Because while there are definitely very intense things going on in the story, what with Chihiro and Samura making their way over to the Kamunabi raid as we speak, we've got Aruha and Yora currently getting into what Yora referred to as a death match. There's just so many different things emerging, and I know a lot of people felt a little bit wishy-washy when it came to the introduction of Kiri's character last chapter, but I also think that she's a very nice addition to the cast as well. What with a lot of the elite characters in Kagurabachi almost essentially becoming a community staple meme at this point, as elite members not really lasting long and basically almost always losing their fights, it's kind of refreshing to see characters that might actually have more going for them and have actually dynamic and interesting fights to contribute to the story, instead of just being these characters that are built up to be broken down instantly for another one. And I'm not saying that that is always a problem in the story. What I am saying is that these characters do have just some kind of aura about them that makes them feel special. We also get a quick flashback to Ibuki Misaka, the original wielder of Cloud Gouger, and we find out that not only were people like Samura able to create massive legends like the Phoenix for themselves on the battlefield of the Seitei War, we also find out that even young swordsmen like Ibuki Misaka, a 20-year-old, basically rookie swordsman, was able to be hailed far and wide as a swordsman that was not only on par with Samura, but even started funny and interesting quotes like "Rain without clouds, evildoers are doomed. Hail in summer, evildoers will perish. Thunder without black clouds, the sound of evildoers meeting their demise." The three different techniques of Cloud Gouger all had their own sayings, which is just proof that this guy was built different. And we kind of had already been getting foreshadowing that the wielder of Cloud Gouger was a menace, but apparently, according to this samurai assassin Hishaku member, who we find out whose name is Hokuto, according to him, this Cloud Gouger wielder was nothing compared to his peak. At the end of their duel, despite all of his accolades, despite all of his power, it meant absolutely nothing in the face of fighting this character. And even Azami, as he looks at this dead corpse, quote unquote, in front of him, is like, this is supposed to be the guy that not only ambushed Rokuhira, probably is supposed to be the guy that ambushed and killed Misaka in a one-on-one. So this is just weird, and now we find out why it was weird. This was a sorcery-controlled puppet, basically just distracting Azami the entire time. And we find out, once again, the Hishaku have just been conducting 4D chess, because Hachaku, on a phone call with this newly introduced Hokuto, the samurai Hishaku member, says, "Hey, what are you up to?" And we find out he's literally just like buying cigarettes and hanging out at like a local convenience store while his puppet actually does the fighting down below. He's not even in the Kamunabi raid right now, which is just like, goes to show you again what level of character we're dealing with. Because while a lot of the other Hishaku members that were revealed were younger, and while supposedly they are very strong fighters, it's safe to say that the characters that participated in the raid against Rokuhira and actually participated in that assassination are not only the leaders of the Hishaku, but the most mature and experienced of them. This video is sponsored by GamerSupps, the ultimate energy and focus formula. GamerSupps is an awesome drink made up of a bunch of vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin D3, B6, B12, and vitamin H, all super good for you and your health. So it's not one of those awful sugar-filled concoctions that's gonna make you crash after drinking it. If you're still skeptical about it, go check out the link and use my code anyway. They are more than willing to send you some free samples and give you a chance to try their product for free. Use my code NOOP now for 10% off, and thank you GamerSupps for sponsoring the channel. Anyway, getting back into it, and getting back to what I was saying in the first place, Hokuto actually says that, you know what? I hate being commended and praised for killing Misaka, because he just wasn't him anymore. After 15 years, he'd lost his fangs. And we find out Misaka's brother, who was only 2 years his younger, brother, and was known as being just as powerful of a sword wielder as Cloud Gouger's wielder, However, during the Seitei War and when enchanted blades were being handed out and passed down, there was only one remaining enchanted blade. And unfortunately, Kumayori went to Aruha as opposed to Misaka's brother. In the face of what he and even Cloud Gouger's wielder thought of was a failure and a slight weakness in the younger brother, this younger brother has been training relentlessly, trying to power himself up and make himself eject that weakness that made him lose out to the Kumayori to Aruha. Someone who was also very similar in age, just 1 year younger to Misaka's brother, and also at the same time was just as much of a rookie and a newbie, and the only thing that went about him was probably his specific personality and connection to Rokuhira, and the fact that he was one of the youngest to master the white purity style, which is again something that has only been mastered by 4 people according to the board. Now, this younger brother's name, whose name is Natsuki Misaka, is down in the training grounds, basically using the motivation of Aruha getting the sword and not him to make sure he is ready for when the Hishaku strike again. And just as his training session is interrupted and the person explains to him, hey, did you not hear the broadcast? The Hishaku are attacking. He thinks immediately to his brother's death, and it's very clear that this Natsuki Misaka, the younger brother of the Cloud Gouger wielder, is going to be more than ready to get revenge for his brother. Because without a doubt, when the one guy reporting to him says, hey, are you ready for this battle? This aura farmer turns and says, I've had a long warm-up. Because remember, in Natsuki's own words, he says, hey, my brother lost the will to fight after the war. However, I have never let my focus waver. So this might be the battle that Hokuto, the samurai Hishaku member, has been asking for and wanting. Even though what he is definitely excited for and is charging into the Kamunabi raid for is to fight Aruha, which seems to just make him start to like go crazy and want to battle Aruha, because this guy has to be potentially related to Kuguri in some way, or at least is the master of Kuguri, because it seems very similar in like he's like losing his mind thinking of getting a chance to actually battle Aruha. So there are plenty of things that are introduced in this chapter that I hope to see more of. Kiri is mentioned again as the Hishaku is trying to inspire excitement in Hokuto and be like, hey, you got the Misaka's brother, you've got that, Shirokai's grandchild to get excited about. Come on. So he's clearly a very battle hungry person, and whatever his sorcery is, it's clearly super strong, because not only is he able to create puppets that are able to fight at least somewhat on the level of Azami to make him think that he was a real person until he got cooked, he's able to draw his sword and slash this guy's cigarette so fast and use a little bit of spirit energy to create enough friction to light this guy's cigarette, which is just, again, going to show the level of power that some of these older Hishaku members may have when being compared to the younger Hishaku members. Now, I don't want to downplay the younger Hishaku members yet, even though one of them just got kicked through multiple walls of Aruha. I think that is clearly a misdirection on Hokuzono's half. Again, because we have now moved past the era, hopefully, moved past the era of elite squad characters getting no diffed. We have now entered the phase of Kagurabachi where it's going to be very intense fights and very dynamic character interactions during those fights, which is all we can ever hope for and more. Not to say the fights before were bad, the fights before were badass, but I think a lot of these fights are going to start feeling a lot more impactful and have a lot more depth, and I am more than excited for that, 110%. And we even have more things going on, like I said earlier, with Aruha battling Yora in a death match. Chihiro and Samura are also on their way. These might not even be the only elite squad members that we're going to get introduced to. I am more than ready. I've been ready. I'm sure you guys are too, to get into what might be one of Kagurabachi's biggest arcs. Again, guys, I've been more than excited for this, and I am more than happy to get into the rest of this journey. This might be one of the biggest arcs of Kagurabachi by far. And every arc that Hokuzono has made has just gotten better, and you gotta give him credit for it. Every arc gets more intense, and this might be the revolutionary arc that makes a bunch of industries go, we can't ignore this anymore. Let's bring out the anime. We can only hope, but Lord knows I'll be on that journey with you guys the entire way. So hit that like button, subscribe if you don't want to miss any future Kagurabachi videos, and I promise you, I'll be here next chapter talking about it. So don't miss that or any other Kagurabachi videos that aren't chapter reviews, because those exist as well. See you guys in the next one. Peace.